And we're recording.
We're live for this week. We had some technical issues.
Man, I thought it's so good on this introduction too. I'm very disappointed that I now have to reread these.
You have to do it again.
Right. It's almost like you should be in charge of talking.
You mean this time? Or
Oh, I got the first one at the very least.
Okay. Gotcha.
Spotify has some good news for people who care. There's apparently going to be a hi-fi audio option, which is kind of true, but at the same time, I have a lot of problems with it. So it's going to be a fun
You're more of a
talk.
vinyl guy now.
I actually vinyl.
He has way too many vinyls now.
Yeah,
Just
right.
Side note, completely unrelated to anything, but I mean related to high quality music, I guess.
Yeah. Yeah, so I don't know how long we'll actually spend talking about Spotify Premium versus how audio works.
Yeah.
But it was interesting to me, so it's in the thing. And then we have WhatsApp updates their terms of service. This was a news article on news.google.com/tech, so we have it on here. It's kind of more of a like, why wouldn't they? Like, of course it is. And things are flashing on my computer. All right, going with 3. I'm gonna.
Okay. Yep. Number 3, we've got Netflix will begin predicting what kind of content you might watch and begin pre-downloading it onto your device for you. So if you're worried about, storage on your device, you might want to look into this, and we'll talk about it in just a little bit. We've got Microsoft Office Word to start predicting your sentences with AI for you, which is something that some other services like Gmail have been doing for quite a while. We've got a issue with 5G cell towers, which we could have known about from previous cell towers using a different range of frequencies.
We should have known about it.
We should have known or should not have known?
We should have known. We should have knew that we would have repeated our history from 5 years ago.
Welcome to life, I guess.
Yeah, right.
Not learning from your mistakes.
We're great at that.
We've got some home office essentials, which
I don't agree with.
Yeah.
But I guess it's essential to some people. I don't know who.
Someone somewhere, right? Maybe. Maybe the author of that article. We've got, a few weeks ago we talked about Ookla's speed test, and some of their graphics were kind of confusing to read and understand. So now we have an article from CNET, which hopefully will simplify your internet speeds into a more understandable format for people who are not as tech savvy. Last week we talked about the Perseverance rover, which was being launched, or which was landing on Mars last week, and it did successfully land. So there's a video out now from NASA, some 360 photos or panoramas. They're not full 360. And also Perseverance is actually using FFmpeg, which is one of the softwares we use to stream our content to multiple channels if we were doing that.
I was about to ask, is your stream up?
It does not appear so, but let me refresh.
Because mine says it's excellent connection, but it won't actually show anything. So I might just close our stream and restream it real fast.
Mine says, it says stream finished. Let's see.
Right.
Fingers.
But we love FFmpeg. It just never works on the times it messes up.
Mine also says excellent connection, but it does not.
All right, I'm just closing up both. All right, I'm gonna hit stream on mine. We're gonna let it go live. Da 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 da. Magic. All right, perfect. And now it just switched. So now it says like live for 6 seconds. But I don't see any pictures yet. Live for 8 seconds. How is this so hard after 2 years? Okay, cool. It's working. And we are wearing the right colored shirts. I'm gonna hit live on
Sweet.
yours.
So it is this week.
You're right. I was like, I'm not wearing a blue shirt. Easy peasy. All right. So
Cool.
Spotify.
And then we have another topic, number 9, our final topic. Starship number 10 might be launching this week, depending on weather and all that jazz. Now, on to Spotify.
The important topics, right?
The important topics,
That's the
yeah,
important
yeah.
stuff happening today.
Yeah, the stuff on Earth.
Yeah. I was about to say, watch me share the wrong screen and just share your stream key. At the very least, I'll have mine on top. There we go. And
Perfect.
Screen. Aha, it shares the right screen. We're magic.
Nice job.
So this is over on
We're
the,
really good at this.
right, we're professionals. This is over from The Verge. So Spotify Hi-Fi is coming to Spotify. Wording. So Hi-Fi stands for high fidelity, which is like high quality, HIGH.
Yeah.
Not like high fidelity.
It's gonna sound
Nice
better.
to meet
is what
you,
he's
right?
trying to say.
Yeah. And so they are not really saying the exact quality that their high fidelity will be at.
Mm-hmm.
But apparently for the free customers, it stops, I think it was 192 Mbps or kbps. I might be able to find it again here a second. And then the premium tops out 320 kbps, which is equivalent to MP3. So if you listen to MP3, that is what it is. It's going to be 320 kilobits per second. I knew for the longest time Pandora was at 96 kbps. And so what's interesting is that you have like other hi-fi streaming services like Tidal, which I believe it mentions in here. Mm-hmm. And Tidal is they have their premium service called Tidal Masters, and that apparently has a audio resolution of 96 kilohertz at 24-bit depth.
Okay.
It's actually super duper easy to understand if you know how a grid works. So if you do like audio signal quality, we do images. We can do like this one might work. There we go. Kind of. So this red one is the analog signal, which is like how our voices talk and how analog works. So it's like a natural.
It can be a range.
Yeah, it's not
as
digital.
A specific value. Yeah.
Correct. That's a good way to put that, actually. And then we see here the digital signal as it steps. So it's like
they're like distinct steps, kind of.
It's points on the grid.
Mm-hmm.
And so the height, the options it has, that's the bit amount, and then the length. The time between each step is the what do they call it? The kilohertz.
Okay.
And so if you talk about 3 bits, you're not talking about like 3 steps. So you're not talking like you could be low, medium, high, or 1, 2, 3. It's 3 bits is 9, I think it is. So it's 0, 0, 0.
Probably 8.
Yeah, and then you have 0, 0, 1, and then you have 0, 1, 0, and 0, 1, 1, because it's all in binary.
Yeah. So then 24 is like basically 2 to the power of 24, which is going to be a very high number.
Here's a good
like
example.
16 million.
So you have the original audio, which would be in analog, if it's from nature.
Actually coming from your voice into the microphone. And then from the microphone, it's then converted to digital.
Yep. And so then if you have the 24-bit hi-fi audio, you can see how it's a little stuttery, but not very stuttery. And then 16-bit, like that looks pretty darn good. Still, like you can still see the wave pretty well.
Yeah.
And then it says MP3 audio, which is, I guess, hysterical enough. And it's very clunky.
I'm sure it's a little bit of an exaggeration, but you get the idea that it's less smooth, I guess.
And so one of the interesting parts is it's not actually blocky like this, because it's not lines, it's dots. And so the dot between 2 point my mouse is over one of the few that you can't see. So like the dot between this top right and the second top right doesn't jump in and then jump up like that. It's actually smooth between the dots. So it's even less blocky, but there's still a loss in quality. So eventually like 24-bit is really smooth, but you could do, 48-bit or 128-bit, but then you're getting to such a high bit depth that you can't have a processor to actually process that audio to make a sound.
And every time you add a bit, it doubles the
Yes.
range too.
Yeah, so going from 16 to 24 isn't like 50% better because you're getting 8. It's double on double on double on double.
Yeah.
I have no idea how many actually qualities it is better. And so having a really high bit depth where you can have your waves be very
precise,
is important, but you also want it to be smushed, so you have not just more points up and down, but also more points left and right for it to read on, because you could have a super low bit depth but then have a super high frequency, not frequency, I guess, I don't even know what's called, the kilohertz, and you can get a really precise bad sound, I guess. So it'd be interesting to see what exactly Spotify chooses for their mix. It's probably going to be pretty much exactly the same, 96 kilohertz 24-bit. It may be 48 kilohertz 24-bit, which is super common. But I don't know. To me, I don't think it makes too big of a difference, because most of the time when I listen to Spotify, I'm not listening to it on like nice speakers. Like,
true, yeah.
And so I was actually reading up on an article that says what is the point of low end hi-fi equipment, because there's like this weird hi-fi market at a low end price, and so people would buy these $50 hi-fi sound systems or something, and it's like, just because it has the word hi-fi, that doesn't make it, like, because it can read high fidelity music doesn't mean it will produce high fidelity sounds.
So you, as the listener, won't necessarily have a better experience.
Correct. And so one of the good examples, actually, I was looking up today, let me pull off of this real fast, was I have just Logitech speakers. And so I was looking at the frequency response. How do you spell frequency?
FREQUENCY.
Right.
And also, just real quick, I looked up the bit rates for MP3, and they are 16 bits of depth and 44,000 or 44 kilohertz. So basically, half the kilohertz, half the frequency of this hi-fi, and a lot lower bit depth.
Okay. Yes, I was looking at this image here. Open image, new tab.
This is going to be an image of what
The
frequency
reproduction.
Okay.
Yeah,
How
so-
accurate it is at certain.
Yeah, so every speaker will play sounds at different frequencies at different responses. So like if you have a high pitched sound like versus a lower like the higher pitch may be somewhere down here where this line wonder. All right, but this line right here is 0. You can tell from the 0 on the side. It plays a little bit quieter, but for the most part it's okay-ish level through the majority up until around 150, which is right here. It goes bananas.
So those are the super low
Yeah.
tones, low frequencies.
Yep. So down here we have low frequency 50 right here. 55 is that thump that everyone loves in their car. So when you hear a thumping in a car beside you at a stoplight, it's that 55 range that you're hearing. And so my speakers have an actual poor 55. It like drops, and then it drops really hard around the 50 range and just dies. And so that would be like, this is an okay mid-range. It's a little bit odd high range, but it's a very, very poor low range. And my surround sound system was like $150 total.
Okay.
And so then you have this weird hi-fi market where they're like, oh yeah, these have great highs and lows, but really terrible mids, or you have these really weird frequency responses. And so a video I was watching was they were getting people who were really into hi-fi, which is one way to say it, I guess. And they were putting in all the different variations between the actual hi-fi audio quality versus low audio quality, but then just resampled as
Nicer.
hi-fi. So
Oh.
not even having actual hi-fi, but like taking hi-fi audio, compressing it down to low quality audio, and then re-expanding it to hi-fi, so that like you can't. So like the file size would still be the same as the hi-fi audio size because it has to have those bits. But like you really can't tell. Like you actually have to go and look at the wave and say like, oh, you know, now the wave doesn't make any sense because half of them are the same.
Yeah.
And then they were doing with like real high quality speakers, medium speakers, low end speakers. And it turns out that most of it is just within the speakers itself to a point.
Okay, so you'll have a better experience as a listener if you use this not hi-fi audio, but you have it playing on nice speakers as opposed to hi-fi audio on bad speakers. And I guess you would be better off with hi-fi audio on high-end speakers, but
Yeah.
if
So
you're going to spend the money on the subscription or the hi-fi speakers or the, you know, high quality speakers, go with the high quality speakers.
yeah. So yeah, like if it's, you know, $10 a month for Spotify Premium, whatever the price is for Spotify Premium.
Yeah.
And then you know, $20 a month for that Spotify Hi-Fi, you might want to save that $10 a month for 2 years and then buy yourself a $200 speaker and really, really enjoy the sound.
Yeah.
Because as long as you don't pop your speaker, it'll probably outlive you. Like, they really don't die that easily. But yeah, so I thought it was interesting because I've always seen Spotify as a music on the go option. I never thought of it as like this is going to be, you know, I'm going to sit down and listen to music for an hour and I'm going to listen to it from Spotify. I've never looked at it that way. You're talking to a guy that will listen to YouTube audio. So
yeah.
I don't know. It's interesting to see that more audio companies are going in the way of like Tidal, where they're like, we're going to produce high fidelity audio. And let's see if it's actually high fidelity or if it's just marketing, I guess.
Yeah. And they still haven't released the price for that yet, but
yeah, there's very little information besides we're going to do it. Speaking of we're going to do it, this WhatsApp thing, I don't know if you read into it at all.
I did not.
Okay, cool, because I didn't either. So this was over on Gizmodo. It was also on a couple other news sites. But WhatsApp, users who don't accept our new privacy policy won't be able to read or send messages. Why isn't that by default on every platform?
I mean, for a lot of platforms, it is, yeah.
It seems like if you have a change to your policy and how you treat your customers and their customer data and everything, you would force them to accept the new terms before you let them continue use of your product, which had me super confused.
I agree with that.
So,
although, I agree with that.
And so they go on to talk about like they're giving people till May 15th, and part of the reason is so that people have a chance to actually read through their entire privacy policy. And to that I say, if it takes 2 months to read through your privacy policy, you should probably change it. Like, I think if it has to be more than a 5-minute read, it's too much.
Too long.
Yeah. If you have to have a second web page for your if you can't fit your entire privacy policy on like a single page, maybe 2 pages.
That's fair. Yeah. But really, how many people are going to read this policy? I think people are either going to be, you know, just accept it and use the service.
Right.
Which, to be fair, is probably what I'll do because
you do use it, right?
Yeah, I mean,
you
that
have
group's
it on
kind of
your phone.
inactive now, but yeah, I do have it on my phone. But then there will also be another group of people who will be like anti-Facebook, anti-WhatsApp,
Yeah.
uninstall,
Right.
which, you know, is totally fine. But yeah, it's either a really big issue to you or it's not an issue at all.
So, out of curiosity, do
Very
you think
polarized.
that a social media platform that is way more transparent would have a better chance of surviving, simply because if you knew that you were the product, would you be more likely to use the platform versus do people enjoy not knowing what's happening to their data? like I would personally prefer to know what's happening to my data on Facebook, and it kind of stinks I can't see it. But I think if I did see what was happening to my data on Facebook, I would be posting even less.
Yeah, it might. If people realize what was happening with their data, they might not, share that data, like you said. I don't know. I mean, in my opinion, Facebook seems to be doing pretty okay.
Right.
So, what a social media service that was more transparent about the way they use your data, would that company do better?
So arguably, you could say that
not really,
Twitter
in
is a
my
little more
opinion.
transparent as a company is, in comparison to Facebook, I would assume.
Possibly. I don't use Twitter just because I've never used Twitter.
I don't like the
for
format
whatever
of Twitter.
reason. Yeah.
It feels less personal somehow.
Yeah, it seems like it's a lot more like
Public
broadcast
facing,
messages.
yeah.
Yeah.
If only we did some broadcasting.
Just not over ham radio, as we've discussed.
Not yet.
Not on stream. I don't know. I mean, I think Facebook's doing really good. Probably a company that was more transparent about the way that your data was used would have less negative interactions with the government. You know, like Facebook's
Yeah.
been involved with some, I don't know, hearings
Yeah,
with
right.
the government for
Not the friendliest
way that they use
device.
people's data. Yeah. So, you know, from that aspect, it might be nice for the company itself to have like less headaches. But then at the same time, if people understood what was actually happening with their data, they might not use your service, even if, you know, all the other services are doing the same stuff with their data. But
I'm kind of interested in this third topic, so I really don't even care about WhatsApp. Other people might care about WhatsApp, but I really don't. I haven't used it, won't use it. But Netflix, on the other hand,
would you use it if your friends had a group chat with it and you needed to join them?
So I'm also
you install
against
it?
Discord, and it is currently installed on my phone and my computer. I personally don't like Discord at all, as we talk on that.
Yeah.
So yeah, if the right group was on WhatsApp, I would get it just to
Yeah.
continue with the
It's
group.
not like you're anti-WhatsApp. It's just you don't have a need for WhatsApp.
Yeah. Well, I'm not.
Which, yeah, I totally agree with.
I'm
you know.
kind of anti-Discord, but that's just how life is.
Okay.
So.
Yeah. Yeah.
I do tell everyone though, it's like, hey, you know that Discord's like not the greatest company. Like, if I knew WhatsApp was actually doing something bad, like I don't know what they're actually doing bad, I would be more
You're
vocal about
associated
that.
with Facebook.
Yeah, see, that's probably enough. Yeah.
But do people really care?
Most people don't. I don't think
Not really,
anyone really
no.
ever cares.
Which might actually be an issue, but
Might be an
anyway,
issue.
on to the next topic.
So this is gonna get even worse. So I'm gonna mention it and see if you even want to talk about it. But
The Netflix one or
yeah,
something
the
else?
Netflix problem. So this is over on The Verge. Netflix latest feature. It's not a bug. Automatically downloads the shows it thinks you should watch. It's one way to word it, I guess. So apparently to begin with, Netflix recommends you use shows based on what you watched before. This is coming from a guy that
Yes.
doesn't use Netflix. And so now,
I mean, it's just like YouTube, you know,
right?
or any service.
So
More
a
or
lot
less.
of this is me on speculation more than the actual feature itself. So if Netflix can see what you watch, and it's like, hey, you know, you like this genre, and you like this actor, and this actress, or whatever, and then this TV show just released a season 1. We think you'd like it. I would assume that they're going to get to a point where they're going to auto download the series or the show or the content for you on your device.
Yeah.
So the super big benefit to this I see is that you're not going to be using your internet during prime internet times, which would be, you know, like 6 to 9 p.m. or at this point 9 to 5. Yay, work weeks.
That, or if you're out of town, you're not going to be using your, you know, cell data
Right.
to stream.
Which is good. The other big benefit I saw to this is the people that watch the same shows over and over again. If they're going to be downloading things they think you're going to watch, they're probably also going to download things that you've obviously watched multiple times in a row. So like a lot of people will watch the Friends TV show or the Office TV show over and over and over again. And so not only does that help with, you know, your streaming ability and having zero buffer delays and even be able to just see it in a higher quality level for people that don't have as fast internet. It also helps Netflix out with not having to upload all of that all the time. If they can just upload it to you and you just have a copy
once.
And then it's all pretty much downhill from there. So so the last big positive, I should write down these lists of positive and negatives as I think about them, is that because it would be downloaded onto your computer, it could be a potential for a non-centralized platform, which means the Netflix would have no valid reason, we're air quoting that one, to get rid of shows to add more. Because you could argue that there's only so much space that Netflix can hold so many shows to have, you know,
because it costs money to
it costs money to host, you know, content.
Yeah.
And so like that's I would consider that a valid reason. But then if it's decentralized where basically the popularity of it keeps it alive and going, then you really don't have that argument anymore. If, you know, 100,000 people are still watching The Office every day after, you know, 5 years of it being over, then it should just stay on Netflix until it hits a certain point where it's no longer being watched by enough people for it to stay around on Netflix.
Yes, almost in a similar way to how torrent works with like seeding and reseeding.
Exactly, yes.
But here's a question. Would you allow Netflix to reserve content from your PC and your internet connection if you're paying for a Netflix subscription?
So what if you got a type of kickback? So to stream a movie would cost, you know, 50 cents to stream it. But then if you were to download it, what if you don't get an option to not, after the download, to not delete it? Like you have to sign up for like 7 days of restreaming it out. And then it's like, you know, 20 cents. Like it's 30 cents and you don't actually have to do anything.
That'd be a good way to do it, actually. Or like, say you get, if you stream for
it would have to be
1 week
time-based.
worth out of the previous month, then you get $2 off your next month's subscription.
Yeah. So yeah, because like content length would be like, it would be hard to charge per content piece. It would have to almost be per content time.
Yeah.
Just because of how you're able to like skip through the video, and you're allowed to play it at like times 1.5 speed now, I believe, because we had talked about that before. And so it would be kind of hard, but you could charge people based on runtime. And so people basically have to re-up it like they did with cell phone plans for minutes. So like you have 4 hours worth of playtime. And then if you're uploading and someone else is downloading off of you, it gives you free minutes or something like that. And you have basically a time currency, which is what money is in a weird way.
Yeah, you're right.
But then I was interested in the idea of, because it gets downloaded onto your device, how do they protect it from there? Because that's instant piracy, essentially. Because once it's on your computer, it would have to be encrypted in some type of way that can't be decrypted, but also decrypted easy enough that if they were offline, you you could still play the video without authentication. Like it gets into this really weird territory.
Yes, I think that there will always be ways
Around.
to rip it, either if it's being downloaded to your computer as Netflix is introducing, or even if it's just streaming, because I'm sure there's programs out there that you can interrupt that network traffic,
Yeah.
you know, from between your browser and Netflix's servers.
And so
you
when-
can interrupt that traffic and basically record that traffic and rip the video from there too. I'm assuming,
Yeah.
not trying to like give anybody any ideas or anything.
It's already the thing. You're
So
good.
I'm pretty sure that either way, whether it's actually downloaded onto the device or it's just streamed on the device, I think there's ways for people to pirate
Yeah.
it. And regardless, when it's downloaded onto your device, it's not just downloaded as an MP4 or a .wave or whatever. It's in some kind of encrypted format.
Yeah. Okay.
You know what I mean?
Not really, but yeah, I get the idea, but I've never
Yeah, it's
actually
some
seen it
kind of-
myself. Yeah.
Yeah, I mean, me neither, but it's going to be some kind of encrypted file that I'm sure theoretically there's some way to unencrypt it and
Yeah. Right.
and pirate it that way. But I don't think that's an issue that is unique to, you know, actually downloading it as
Netflix.
opposed to streaming it. Yeah.
Yeah. So
So those are the benefits of this service.
yeah, the big downside, aside from it taking up your bandwidth for upload credits in the possible future, and
Yeah.
simply storage, because your storage can
Yeah.
only be written and read from so many times that it will eventually destroy your storage, which is kind of unfortunate. But I guess if it saves you 20 cents per
Reality.
video,
Yeah.
go for it. Would be because the content gets downloaded to your devices. I don't know how much you keep up with the tech news, funny enough, but when the one show French kid film was accused for sexual content with children, sexual suggestive content or something like that. I forget what the show was, and I really don't want to type that into Google.
Yeah.
Because it is downloaded on your device and it's being re-uploaded from your ISP, could you be responsible for distribution?
That is an interesting question. Yeah, I was going to say downloading versus streaming. I'm not sure what the legal difference is there, but yeah, certainly if you're re-uploading it and distributing it,
Yes.
that could be a
Consuming
big
and
issue.
distributing are very different in
Very
every
different,
aspect in life.
Yes.
And so it would be interesting that if it was in an encrypted container of a sort, if it was no longer considered you as redistributing it, even though you're being credited from Netflix from a current, so like you're almost getting paid to distribute it from Netflix. So like, it's an interesting idea because thankfully whatever it was, Cuties or something, didn't turn out to be like this huge, massive lawsuit problem thing. But it doesn't mean that's not going to happen in the future.
In the
Like,
future, yeah.
surely someone's going to make a really bad choice in the future. It always happens.
Yeah.
So it'd be interesting to see how the technology law is going to change in a way that, because it can even be to the point that you didn't even watch it and you didn't plan to watch it, but Netflix thought you might wanted to watch it, and so it went ahead and downloaded it for you.
Yeah. Well, I think you bring up a good point about technology law as well and needing to change. And I think that the whole GameStop, Wall Street bets debacle thing
Hopefully.
has kind of brought that a little bit to the forefront.
Yeah.
To-
no kidding, right? That something's not working.
Yeah.
Speaking of things that aren't working, Microsoft Office. I'm done with Netflix unless you got something to add to it.
One other thing relating to the whole technology law needing to change.
Right to repair.
Well, when Well, different demographics interact with technology at a different level. And
Yes.
generally speaking, younger people use more technology. And so I'm not trying to be ageist or anything here,
Yep.
but when the average age of the senators are, in the 60s or high 50s, I think 57 is the stat that I pulled up,
Okay.
you know,
That's the average age of
that's
my customer.
part of the that's part of the issue with
Right.
the technology law is that a lot of these people who are
In charge of the laws.
in charge of the laws
Don't
are
understand the
not as familiar
possibilities.
with and don't understand the possibilities and the technologies involved. So
Yeah. So if I ask,
that will change in the future.
Yeah.
I mean, just as
time
younger
goes,
people
right?
run for office.
But then you would
but-
think that the law would always be 30 or 40 years
Oh,
behind the cutting edge of technology.
yeah,
Because like it hasn't happened yet, but it's almost guaranteed to happen for a non-centralized video platform to have something bad on it.
hmm Anyway, on to the next topic.
Microsoft Word, also from The Verge,
Our friends at The Verge.
is getting text predictions next month. So my question to you, I really don't care too much about it. I think everyone at this point knows what text prediction is if you use Gmail. Would you be willing to let Microsoft Office, Word, whatever, access to everything you type to make the AI prediction better? Would you be willing to give up everything you type in documents to make your document typing experience automated? Because that's essentially what this would be. Yeah, we already do it with Gmail.
Know that I should be. I don't know that I should do that, but would I, for the simplicity of my life, I would.
Because you could say that autocorrect doesn't need the internet, because it doesn't need the internet. You can download a book, a list of all the words that it should autocorrect to. That's a downloadable thing. But
Yeah.
an AI to autocomplete sentences would almost guaranteed to need the internet, unless it was a local AI, which would destroy your computer to write a Word document.
Yeah. At this point, it's just inevitable.
It's just inevitable.
They've got all our data.
Would you be less likely to use Google Docs and use something like LibreOffice or OpenOffice, knowing that everything you put into a document wasn't saved on a Microsoft server, going through a bunch of AIs? Or is it to you like whatever?
It's like at this point,
the
whatever.
things I type
It's
into a document
inevitable.
aren't that big of a deal?
Yeah, that's the way I feel about it at this point. And I do use Google Docs for basically everything. I literally do not have Microsoft Word on my computer, even for school stuff or whatever it is. I just use Google Docs.
Yeah. So I actually had to check because I do use the autocomplete sentence in Gmail, mostly for like,
I do as well.
okay, I'll do that, or like the
Yeah,
default
short
3-word response. It's way nice.
Mhm.
But then I had to check in Google Docs to see if it was a thing, and it's not.
Okay. Yet.
Not yet, right? It'll be here shortly,
It will
I'm
be.
sure.
Yeah.
But yes, like I'll use it in Gmail, but I don't know if I would use it in a doc, simply because most of the time when I talk in Gmail, it's very non-personal. It's usually just like, yep, do it. All right.
Mhm.
And most of the times it's lists. Like I talk in lists a lot. If you don't believe me, I think I have an 87-page list here, 78-page list
Of
from
topics,
a
tech
Monday.
topics.
Yeah, right, over the last 2 years.
I will say, if I was working on building a competitor to one of Microsoft's products, I would not use Google Word for that, especially not with the autocomplete on there. Just to be safe, I'm sure the data is anonymized and they couldn't get anything from the data anyway, but, if I was building a competitor to one of their products,
You would not have it
just
online.
for the I would not do it with Microsoft's Word with their autocomplete feature, just because you never know
Okay.
what could accidentally get leaked or shared or
Right.
whatever. you know,
Reviewed by a third party.
yeah,
We're looking
yeah,
at
exactly.
Amazon.
Like the chances of that happening are
Super
so
slim,
low,
but
but you know,
right.
better safe than sorry, I guess.
It's like leaving a piece of an important doc on a desk. It's like chances are no one's going to see that, but
Yeah, but
there's
why-
a chance that
why
somebody's going to
risk
look at a document on your desk.
Yeah.
Speaking of leaving things on our desk, these names, they're on our desk. They're kind of. They're on top of our monitors at the very least. They hide the monitors. I'm getting there. Our
Kind of.
sponsors. Yeah, right. Thanks. Nephew.com. Still no SSL.
jmartmedia.com. The end.
Yeah, we did it.
We did the sponsors, not the end of the stream. Don't worry.
Oh man, we're nowhere near. Are you kidding? That was
Oh,
4
wow.
out of 8, 9, 4 out of 9. I'm gonna talk less.
Or we could roll some of these topics over. Oh, we only have 2 more real topics and then
Yeah, I mean,
space
now
topics.
that we're off of
which are
the
short.
audio, I'm pretty short. I hate audio, man. There's too many variables. There's at least 3 variables.
Bitrate,
Yeah.
hertz, and what, volume?
Personal preference,
Oh,
the
wow,
worst
that's
one.
an infinite variable.
Right. You've worked with customer before. Oh man, so this is over on The Verge. 5G in the US is disappointing right now, but it's going to get better. I would argue that to a degree. So I kind of read this article a little bit, but a lot of this is my opinion, of course. If you haven't caught on from the past 2 years, hey guys, watch this. So from the looks of it, part of the problem with 5G is the density. If you actually want to read the article, you can. But it was something I didn't think about, but something I've had to work with a lot for the last 2 weeks with customers was in-home Wi-Fi setups and the problem with ISP routers colliding with their own routers and mesh home networks that were just set up wrong and all types of Wi-Fi garbage. And then I saw this article on news.google.com and I was like, wow, I'm glad I'm not the only one that has to deal with this. So I think part of the problem here is the bandwidth range within 5G that is allowed for these ISP, the actual providers. So
Okay.
within 5G for home networks, I believe it's bands 1 through 11 or 1 through 13. Honestly, I could pick my phone up and actually just look. But so you have a range there where you can have like 3 bands essentially covered. So it's from 5100 to 5800 ish.
Gigahertz
Yeah. And
or megahertz, I guess.
yeah, I don't know. And so like right now I have 2 5G Wi-Fi. Technically I have 4. So I have 2 coming from one router and 2 coming from another router. And so there's 4 total, but I have them spread out equally along that, 1,000 bands, I guess, or 1,000 gigahertz range. 1 gigahertz range. You know what I mean.
Yeah, I know what you mean.
Yeah, thank you. And that's fine, but there's only 4. The problem is these 5G towers have to be put up every couple hundred feet, I believe it is. And so once you start putting up these towers in such a dense manner, and then having multiple providers having to put in their own band, their own frequency into each tower, you then have this problem essentially cluttering the airspace with so many signals in the 5 gigahertz range. And that looks like it's becoming the problem now for some areas, is that, we fought this with the 2.4 gigahertz back in 2009 to 2012, which is kind of actually before I got into computers, but I definitely remember seeing all the forum posts about it. And that's why home setups were like, Now we have dual band, 2.4 gigahertz Wi-Fi and 5 gigahertz. And now you have routers coming out with tri-band and quad band, where they do 2.4, 5, and 5, or 2.4, 2.4, 5, and 5, or some combination of it. And the problem is we're cluttering it again, which really wouldn't be that big of a deal, but it is.
Yeah.
It kind of stinks. So I don't know exactly how they're going to solve this aside from like playing nicer with each other, which really isn't, I guess, an option. But from my understanding, that's what the problem is that it's not like 5 gigahertz is causing some big massive problem or any of the 1,000 conspiracy theories we've heard throughout 2020 about 5G. It's that within the 1,000 hertz that we're allotted to it, it turns out that's not enough to cover any significant area. Which 5G for wireless home Wi-Fi was the whole point, was that you have 2.4 for long distance and 5 for short distance high speed.
Okay. Yeah. And then now there's just a lot of interference from it.
Yeah. So it'd be interesting to see if part of this, I mean, depending on how technology goes, right? So like when you build a house, you have like, your outside protection, which is like, your siding or your shingles or whatever the outside is. And then you have the underwall. I forget what it's called, but you have that basically separates. Then you have your insulation and your studs and all that fun stuff. And then you have your sheetrock and then paint and whatever. It would be interesting that I wonder if we are ever going to build like Faraday cages into houses.
Add some tinfoil.
Right? Like, why not? Like, we add insulation to stop air. Why wouldn't we add wire to stop signals to the outside of houses? And that would also help part of the interference problems, I guess.
Yeah.
Because 5 gigahertz is meant to be faster. So then when we move up to the higher speeds, like 7.4 or whatever will be next, it's going to have to be closer. It's going to have to be more powerful. And so if we already start building the real world infrastructure to deal with, cutting away interference lines, it would help out a lot. It's like where we live, we have enough space between us and the neighbors that, my $300 routers, I could see a couple houses down, but I can't see their $40 AT&T router from my house just because my Wi-Fi signal is so much stronger that it interferes them out of my house. But then when you live in an apartment building and 4 dudes have their own $300 routers, you then destroyed your apartment building with so much interference.
Yeah.
That if you just put a layer of tinfoil around your house, you wouldn't have that interference. I don't know. I thought it was kind of a funny problem that we already dealt with once. And we were like, we're going to solve this by just creating more. And now that we created more, we're like, well, we ran into the same problem. What now?
This video is not sponsored by Ethernet.
Ooh, no
but
kidding, right?
If you run cables, but that's not practical for everything like phones. So,
all right, if you were to choose one essential thing for an office, a home office, what would the most essential thing be?
Home office?
I can tell you right now. If you were,
it would be a headset.
You think a headset?
Yeah.
I would argue chair. I think the
chair would be a close second, if not first. Yeah, I won't disagree with that as the first option.
I mean, I was gonna argue like socks or something. Like, if I'm not wearing comfortable like socks, maybe. Right? But I was like, I gotta go a little more specific. Like, there's a chair at work too, but I also wear socks at work, so like how far can I stretch this one? But yeah, I would argue chair for the home office setup would be arguably the most important thing. Like, I'm not a big fan of this chair I have. I think I made it clear on several episodes. Like, gaming chair, don't much like it. I kind of want something different, but I don't sit in this all day, so I guess that works out pretty well.
Yeah, I'd say chair, monitor, and headset, in my opinion. But
Yeah, monitor I find would probably be the second,
Mhm.
simply because your eyes get tired so fast. But CNET, I think, disagrees everywhere, which is hysterical. So the best office essentials for 2021, and we're gonna just like close out the ad. So conveniently, they put their list at the top, which makes like this whole thing really easy to go through. I guess it makes doing a list pretty unfun, but
yeah.
so they say one mouse to rule them all. So I have the MX Anywhere 2 for work, and I like it enough. The nice part about it is I can literally use it on any surface. So while I'm working on a computer, I can just move it to the test bench, and it works on plywood. And I could take it to the front counter, and it works on the glass showcase. And the mouse
really?
just
Wow.
works, yeah, like anywhere. It's great.
Mhm.
And in that use case, it's perfect. This here is the fourth mouse I've used this week here, unfortunately. So my Logitech G702S finally died. It finally bit the dust. And so I've been trying mice left and right. It's been like $800 so far, but I think I found the one I like. This turns out to be the Logitech G604. So
Okay.
I started off with one mouse, and it was too shallow. We're gonna actually, I don't know how much you actually care about this, but this is why it's so important. So it was too shallow. It's like this is a much thicker mouse, and so I had to return it because my problem is I palm my mouse, and so there's no. I mean, I'm using the wrong hand to show you on this. There's no air gap here. I sit flat, and
Okay.
with the first one I tried, it just my hand had a drag on the mouse pad, which was uncomfortable. And
Okay.
then the second one I tried, it tilted my hand too far sideways because it was ergonomic. And I was like, well, this is trash. I used it for about 30 minutes and just returned it. There was no chance. I tried another one. I don't remember even what was wrong with that one. And then I got to this one. This is number 4, though. And so far, I like this one. There's a couple small complaints, but nothing terrible yet. So I'm sticking with it. So as mice are important, I wouldn't say you should buy this mouse because it's the best mouse. You should definitely try them.
And if you're using your mouse for a home office, you probably got a mouse pad
Right? Wait,
or
what?
a specific place that you use your mouse.
Yeah. So,
So
it
you don't
mix
need
anywhere
to
doesn't
be
make sense.
able to work on a glass countertop, for
Right.
example.
Like that,
Which
my
is
use
glass
case is unique.
Yeah.
And so, yeah, finding the mouse that fits you perfectly is by far something that you'll love. The other big thing that I get a lot of flack for, I wish I could show you a picture, but I can't actually tilt my camera down far enough, is that most people use their mouse keyboard setup. So, like
Are you gonna tell me where their mouse is like below the keyboard, below the space bar,
yeah,
as
that's
opposed to the right of the keyboard?
right.
Yeah, I know. I've seen that. It's crazy.
Oh, you have seen it how I use it.
Is that how you use it?
Yes. Oh,
Really?
okay. So, almost, I guess. Layout. I'm trying to find pictures.
Because I definitely have my mouse almost up and to the right of my keyboard, kind of near where the, insert, delete, home, page up, page down keys are. To the right of the arrow keys, but also a little up. And I don't have a 10 key keyboard.
All right, so this is a terrible quality image, but I found it on the internet. So this is a computer setup. So I also have the
Yeah.
exact same mouse mat.
Okay.
I tell from the logo, but I love these mouse mats. They're fantastic.
The big ones, yeah.
Yeah. And so a lot of people do this kind of setup where their keyboard is
Yes.
a little bit is in front of them and their mouse is a little bit off to the side. And most people think that's normal. I actually put my mouse diagonally below the spacebar right here. It's not
Okay.
dimensionally below, like on a separate rack, but
Mhm.
it's just literally below my spacebar. And so
Okay.
like if I reach my pinky up, I can hit the Alt key, to the
Gotcha.
right of my spacebar, and that's how I use my computer.
Okay.
The mouse sits sideways, so my arm sits like a, I don't know, sideways.
So it's like your pinky is next to the space bar and the Alt key. Yeah, I gotcha.
Yeah, and I get a lot of flack because that's weird,
Yeah, it is.
but I find it really comfortable, and so that's part of the problem is that you need to find what's comfortable for you.
I guess I definitely use my mouse, as I was saying, kind of up and to the right of the keyboard. And I've never really considered using the mouse beneath the spacebar, although actually when I look at it, my hand moves less far from the mouse to the keyboard if my mouse is below the spacebar, as opposed to where I put my mouse.
Okay.
Like where I put my mouse, your hand actually has to move, a foot as opposed to 6 inches. So that's one thing. But at the same time, if my mouse is just underneath my spacebar, it kind of makes it awkward to place my hands and type.
So when I do
Because
type, my mouse sits like this between my hands.
Just like perfectly placed.
Yeah.
There. Okay. Huh.
I wish I could take a picture and show you. One day I'll have a picture
Yeah.
of me typing with my mouse.
Yeah.
beside me.
Interesting though. I hadn't ever really considered that.
And that part of the nice part is like, so if I use my left hand, I can't reach the U key without pushing my mouse. So it forces my hands to stay separate,
Okay. Gotcha.
because then I start clicking everywhere.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. So mice, they're important, but don't just buy one because an article says you should. Buy 6 of them and then return 5. Small but capable laser printer. I would agree, a laser printer. Inkjets, I mean, unless you do a lot of printing, it's just going to dry out on you. So buy a laser. I don't know what to tell you there. A webcam, right?
How often do you use a printer?
So me personally, every other day-ish.
For work stuff?
For work. Personal, I don't know the last time I printed. Probably
Yeah.
like September. Oh, I take that back. Oh, okay. Yeah, personal, it probably was like September. For work stuff, it is like every other day. I was thinking of something. I was like, wait, that was work.
Yeah, for me, I mean, I never use a printer except for, well, the last time I used a printer was when we were building planes and I wanted to print out a template to get
Okay.
the exact sizing for certain parts
Yeah.
of the 3D model plane.
So I would also argue that depending on how often you print, like if you're like me or me and you, it may be worth just paying your library $1 to print off 20 pages. Last time I
Yeah.
checked, it was like 5 cents for a black and white, 20 cents for a colored page. Like,
Mhm.
it's not bad to not have to deal with a printer. Logitech webcam. I think we're going to disagree on this one. Capture card, DSLR, all the way.
I definitely disagree with that one, especially for most people's use case. I'm using a webcam here, and I think the quality looks
It's good.
good enough.
Yeah.
This inequality issues are more likely to be from
Discord.
the stream. Yeah, the Discord,
Yeah.
the live video chat that we're doing. But for most people who just need a webcam to be able to hop into a Skype meeting or a Teams meeting or a
Right.
know,
A webcam's good.
Zoom meeting, yeah, a webcam is perfectly fine,
But
easier
a
to set up.
webcam microphone is not.
But a webcam microphone is not. That's correct.
I wish they sold webcams without microphones. Like, just save the 7 cents that you spent on the microphone. So I do agree with them on number 4. I don't exactly care what microphone you use. I mean, a Shure is probably good enough.
Yeah.
But a real microphone would be great.
Yeah. Audio quality is actually really important. The video quality, is nice, but
Yeah, you can usually get away with bad video if you have good
Yeah.
audio.
yeah.
We're looking at you, Spotify. And then charge nearly any device with a 65-watt charger. Why is that a necessity in your office? I would put a wireless phone charger over that.
I mean, I wouldn't put a wireless phone charger over it, but you should already have something to charge your devices. Like,
In your home.
come on. Yeah, in your house. How else do you charge it? Where do you go? Do you go to the library whenever
you go to the
charge your
office.
device?
Oh man, I would definitely put a wireless phone charger. It's one of the nicest things I have in my office, and it was 3D printed.
My phone can't wirelessly charge.
You get one of the little adapter cases. I
Oh,
did that
man.
with my old one. It was clunky, but it worked.
Then we've got a pair of slippers. Yeah, it keeps going. There's more items on this list.
Wait, really?
Yeah,
Oh my god, there is. What?
the best slippers ever, apparently.
See, I was just reading like the top thingy where there's like 4 items at the very top. Yeah, the best slippers ever.
If socks aren't fancy enough for you,
What?
here you go.
All right, curious question. I don't know if you want to answer it on stream. Do
That's
you
fine.
wear anything on your feet when you use your computer?
No, I'm not wearing anything on my feet right now. Sometimes I'll wear shoes or socks, but I don't put them on to use the computer, you know?
Okay.
If my feet are cold, I'll put on socks, but I don't generally go around with slippers. I don't have any slippers. Not that there's anything
Yeah.
wrong with having slippers,
It's just
but
not you.
yeah.
So funny enough, I prefer socks. So I can use my computer barefoot, but I've actually got to put socks on to get back onto the computer because it just feels. So I'll be barefoot and have a blanket over my feet.
Okay, yeah.
But I've definitely taken my shoes off at work to use the computer.
Okay.
Just to be like, wow, I actually need to think about this. Let me take off my not thinking shoes. I am definitely a socks on the computer kind of guy.
Okay.
I have no idea why,
Yeah.
but I don't know. I've never tried slippers. I don't think I'd like it. I don't know. I like being able to touch the bottom of my feet.
We've got a few desks. We've got this weird
Kneeling
ergonomic
desk.
desk. Yeah. Oh, is that what it is?
Yeah,
You're
your
right,
butt
it
goes
is.
on the back and your
Interesting.
shin/knees go on the pads.
So I guess if you're having back troubles, then
So I think
look into your desk setup.
sitting on desks like this will force you to push your shoulders back because it's going to force you to lean back a little bit.
Yeah,
And so that's
I
gonna,
can see that. Hmm.
I don't know. I would see that more as a stretching pose. I don't think I could use a computer like that for 8 hours. So I would roll this one out.
And then we've got,
Adjustable workstation.
which
So-
actually I would like a desk that goes up and down. You have to stand up. Yeah.
So I guess you know both of them. One of them does have an up and down desk, and the other one just has a bunch of boxes stacked on his desk for a standing desk. And he stands all day at work in front of a computer. It's unimaginably painful.
Yeah, I don't think I would want that. I'd
was
like
like-
it to be adjustable.
So when I have to use my computer, I definitely sit down to use it. But then when I'm working on other computers, I stand up to work on them. I won't sit
Yeah.
down and work on someone else's computer. I have no idea why. I find that like my self-confidence level goes through the roof if I'm standing up, which makes me do a better job on other people's computer or something like that. But then if I'm sitting
And-
down at mine, I just feel comfortable.
Yeah, there's definitely something different about being standing up or sitting down. Like when I'm on the phone, I'll pace and
Yep.
I have to stand up. And
But then
I
if
do
you're
think-
texting, you'll sit down to text.
yeah,
maybe?
yeah, a lot of times. I mean, I can still talk on the computer when I'm sitting down over Discord
Yeah.
or in a game or whatever. But if I'm on the phone, like I'm standing up.
Yeah, you almost have to be. The only time I'll sit down while I'm on the phone is if there's not an actual topic happening, and it's just like,
Like a casual conversation.
in which case my feet are kicked up on the desk with my shoes off. You know what's happening.
Next up, this is one item that we both mentioned was important.
Yep.
We've got a 32-inch 4K monitor. which seems reasonable to me,
So
if not a little expensive.
I think I did the unfortunate thing of speaking Greek too far to a customer this week. They were asking me about monitor preferences and like what would be best for them. And then I went into this huge rabbit hole of pixels per degree and resting focal distance on monitor screens, and then the difference between LED, LCD, and how IPS is better for the bright room. But then if you're going to go for a dark room, I would look at an LCD with a dimmable display, and started going into this technical everything about it. And then I opened up the two websites that show like the calculators on how to determine what screen size at what resolution with what refresh rates are best for your certain circumstance. And then he left, and I was like, that was a lot of information. That could have been a book.
Yeah.
But yeah, if you get headaches using a computer, you might want to get a really big headache researching what kind of screen you should actually get, because chances are it's the screen causing it. Like, I keep telling myself I want to upgrade to bigger screens because they're only 21.5-inch screens, but I have 3 of them. And the problem is, if I go up to 32 inches or 27 inches, I'm no longer looking from here, which is one corner, to here, which is the other corner. I will be looking from here.
Yeah, like almost behind you. Yeah.
Right. I'm like, I don't need bigger screens. And then the resolution's perfect because they're at 1080p right now, which is great. If they're at 4K, I would just have to zoom everything in because I'm already like, it's plenty small. A size 12 font is about as small as I can read on the screen.
Yeah.
If we go 4K, that size 12 gets real tiny. It's like, these are perfect, but I've had them since 2012, so I feel like they shouldn't be perfect. So yeah, make sure your screen's good for your use case. Oh, we talked about this before too.
Yes.
Turn your laptop into a desktop, and then Apple Magic Keyboard and Magic Mouse. What? Okay, that's 2 different things.
Yes. So personally, if I had an Apple device laptop, I would get a different keyboard just because the keyboard on like this Apple Magic Keyboard is pretty similar to the keyboard built into the laptop. You know, there's still like the little chiclet small keys.
Unfortunate.
Yeah. If you prefer a mouse, then the Magic Mouse with Apple keyboards or Apple laptops is kind of nice because you can actually move it around as opposed to the trackpad. But
and you can use it under your spacebar, just like the trackpad.
Yeah, true.
I do wish I had enough money to show people the difference in keyboards, because people look at me like I'm insane when I tell them that I spent more than $20 on my home keyboard, because it's that clicky cherry MX Blue, and it's really hard to describe. Like, it's kind of like a typewriter, but it's like good,
but not in a bad way.
Yeah, right. Like, you know, everything bad about a typewriter, it's not that. It's the good parts, and it's really hard to. And then they're like, oh, and then they're like, I have to explain, like, oh, then there's MX Brown and MX Clear and MX Red, and it gets into one of those.
Yeah, kind of like the monitor thing with a lot of different information that can seem overwhelming. Yeah,
but I'm not really against turning your laptop into a desktop, depending on your use case. There's definitely a lot of benefits to that. Coming from a guy that has a laptop right beside his desktop.
Mine's around here somewhere.
Cheap but good multi-device keyboard. I agree on always having a spare keyboard. I'm not sure what multi-device keyboard means, but you should always have extra keyboards.
Bluetooth or something.
Okay. My spare keyboard is currently in the spare room, so that's how that one works. But yeah, not having to unplug your keyboard to plug it into another device is pretty nice.
Yeah, for sure.
Tune
Hey,
into
we finally got there.
the Muda
Headphones.
Headphones. The more money you spend on headphones, the more you'll like them. That's a fact. You can't argue it.
Pretty much.
So, funny enough on that one, though, I don't know if I told this one yet. So, I have Audio Technica's MX50s, which are like $100 headphones, I believe. And I love them. They're fantastic, in my opinion. They're pretty solid all the way through on their frequency response, which we kind of talked about before at the beginning of this. And so, my brother's headphones, the wire finally disintegrated, essentially. And so, he needed new headphones. And he was just using little like $30 what you would buy anywhere headphones. And so I was like, well, let's try getting you like a nice pair if you're going to start wearing them all day, every day, essentially. And so we were trying out, $150, $200 headphones to see like, here's what quality sounds like. You know what he ended up keeping?
Turtle Beach.
A brand spanking new pair of the exact same model he had before. He decided that the $30 sounded just as good as the $200, and there's no point in spending any money difference.
I think another important aspect is, well, even more important than sound is comfort.
So comfort does, I guess.
Headphones that are comfortable. Let me see if I have headphones that I can.
Yeah, he did complain that the MX 50s, which I have, squeeze too tight for him. Which I would completely disagree, but I have a much bigger head, so you think they'd squeeze harder, but I like the squeeze. To me, that's like the quality. It's like when your seatbelt slightly squeezes you in the car. A lot of people might find that super uncomfortable around their stomach, but it's like, I kind of like that like reassurance, consistent hug of a seatbelt.
So these are Turtle Beach Stealth 450s, and then these are, let me see. Let me take my headset off. Logitech something other. Honestly, I need to make a review about these two headphones. And the nice thing about these are both in the $50 range, but they wobble like this way, they twist this way. These feel much more firm on the head, so like if I move my head around, they don't move, whereas these things, if I tilt my head forward, they almost fall off.
They're a little loose.
These are a little looser, but in a way that's kind of comfortable. These ones are much more massive on the head. These are much more low profile. One weird issue that I had with these headphones was that at first it was uncomfortable because the ear cups actually were not that deep, which meant my ear was touching the sidewall. I don't remember if it was these headphones or some other headphones, but like it was really actually uncomfortable on the ear.
Yeah.
I would say, comfortable headphones are super important. And then sound quality is obviously important as well.
That's what I did with these is you could clearly tell I replaced the ear pads in them because the other ones were like this weird leather. I don't know, but the head sweat would like make them like stick to you like a plastic car seat would. And so I put on these other fake leather ones, and these don't stick like the ones that came with it did.
But I will say, I guess all this to say, there is actually value on paying a little bit more for headphones for comfort. It's not just that, hey, I don't care about sound quality at all. I just need to be able to hear the content on my Zoom call or whatever. But it's, in my opinion, it's more about the comfort and can I actually wear these all day, or can I be comfortable on my Zoom call? And it's more than just the sound quality.
It's like one thing I get kind of made fun of is I love these headphones. I'm gonna take off for a quick second. But I get made fun of for this reason right here.
They can turn around.
Because so if I'm just listening to music or I'm mixing or anything live, I'll wear them like a normal human with both ears over. The problem is these are closed back headphones, so I can't actually hear my voice while I'm talking. It's all just in my head, and I don't enjoy that. The other big downside is I can't hear if other people are in the room. So like It's like a constant fear of someone's just standing over my shoulder while I work, which is a weird fear to have, I guess. And so if I'm doing anything that doesn't involve like super focus on audio, I have to turn one inside out. That way I have room presence around me with an ear.
Yeah.
And so that may be one benefit of looking at headphones is you can buy open back headphones. So you can still hear the room with both of your ears covered versus closed backs like these where it does cut out all the room sounds. So yes, like every time I talk to you, I always either have it flipped over or I have it flipped the right way, but then I push it behind the ear.
Yeah.
And it just kind of goes between the two because it's uncomfortable either way. But I cannot talk if I can't hear everyone in the room.
Yeah.
Drink good coffee. Man.
That one's directed at you.
Oh yeah. I don't know. Not really tech related, I guess. Super good coffee. Way cool coffee.
Make dinner easy.
This feels like an advert.
It does feel like an advert. It's definitely an advert, actually.
I don't know how not cooking dinner makes your office essential.
Well, you see, if you spend less time commuting, there may be more time for dinner prep, according to this article, actually.
Oof.
All right, well, let's talk about article number 7 next week.
Okay, yeah.
Take a carryover.
I thought it was only 4 things on the list. I did not realize that this list was like 37 things long.
Yeah. And my pick was, third to last, but, it's okay. On an article from The Verge, Perseverance, the Mars rover, did successfully land on Thursday.
Did you watch it?
I watched it live, so, I participated in it.
You did it.
Yep, we did it, guys. It's all me. And there's this 3-minute video, which is on this article from The Verge, which you can actually probably click through just to see some of the landing.
Weird.
If you want to share your screen.
That would help, wouldn't it? Thank you, sir.
Would very much help. So you can kind of click through. If you go to about 25 or 26 seconds, you can see the parachute deploying. Yep, right there. So the parachute deployed, and then I guess kind of in the 2-minute mark range, you can see the landing buoy coming down. And then if you skip to about 3 minutes, you can actually see the sky crane start lowering the rover itself onto the surface. And it's pretty cool because you can see on the top left, that's the view from the rover looking up. The bottom left is from the sky crane looking down. And then the right is, I think, the
bottom
rover
of the
looking down.
rover. Yeah.
Yeah. So landed, and then it's pretty crazy.
Did you see why they had picked the place they landed?
I think it's because they think that it used to be full of water.
Correct. Okay, so you did.
So they're looking for, so they're looking for like life forms that may have lived in that water or that kind of thing. Even though there's not any liquid water currently on the surface of Mars that we know of, it's all frozen into ice.
Yes, interesting. And then this almost 360 video is pretty cool on.
Yep.
You know what makes me the most angry about this?
That it's not just a 360 sphere image. They put it as a weird video thing on YouTube. Because that made me kind of upset.
The fact that they can get this kind of quality on a rover on Mars to come back to Earth, but you can't buy this in a handheld device on any type of retail store. The video quality of this, I would say, I mean, aside from it like not being a very active scene, it's almost just like a picture.
It is a still picture, I think. It's definitely a still picture.
You think it's actually a still picture?
I do. Yeah, because the amount of data that it would take for this to actually be a 1 minute long video, it just doesn't make sense for it to be a still video like that. They must not have figured out a better way to share the image or an easier way to share the image than
Just make it a minute.
extracting it out to a video, which I mean is a fine way to do it, but like, come on, just, I mean, Google Maps has the 360 view. You guys can do this.
Okay, well that makes me less mad then.
Yeah,
I thought it was a 1 minute video, but then I was like, nothing really happens because
yeah,
I guess there's not much interesting things happening on Mars.
yeah. Other than the rover. Although this rover also has a microphone on it, and they captured the sound of wind on Mars, which is the first sound from another planet. It's kind of gimmicky, but kind of cool, I guess. Probably can be used for other things than just listening to the wind. But... And then the last thing is just a source to the claim that the rover is using FFmpeg, which I believe is compressing the video and photos that are then being transmitted to Earth. And so this is just a Reddit thread, and it contains the source and a timestamp for the Mars press conference that was today. So
That's kind of neat.
yeah, so an open source software that's used in the rover.
Now, do you think that might be because it's open source and they're like, let's go with the cheaper option? Or is it because, like, the people that were in charge of it were like, this is what I know, so we're going to use this?
Probably a little bit of both, actually. Yeah.
Because, like,
Just
on one
makes the
hand,
process
they're
simpler.
NASA. Like, they could hire anyone to do it. Like,
Yeah.
they could find the guy to find the best solution. Or if it was just like, I don't know, man. Franklin is pretty good with video compression. What does he use?
Yeah. I don't know. It would be interesting to like be a fly on the wall of that conversation.
Right?
Because
Because, like,
there's this product that already exists. It's called FFmpeg. It's
yeah. And, like, that
everybody
happens to
uses it.
tech people all the time. It's like, oh, you do audio for your place. Can you come help us? Also, I use a digital mixer. Like, it's fancy, all computer side crap. And then you put me in front of an analog mixer. I'm like, I can, but it's not exactly what I actually do.
It almost seems like it's something they came up with last minute. Like, oh wait, we need some way to compress the video. Just like find something quick and patch it in.
What do you mean they don't have
FFmpeg,
fiber?
Let's do it. They don't have fiber on Mars. Which honestly, I did kind of listen to the press conference as I was doing other stuff today, and they definitely mentioned FFmpeg as is mentioned in the source. I don't remember if they mentioned why they chose to use FFmpeg or not, but I might have to look into that. Because yeah, it's like
Yeah, it's usually
Why?
the free options aren't the best
the
options.
best. Yeah.
But because they're free, they're usually the best for most.
Yeah.
I just want to. I
Most,
was
like-
assumed that NASA was the most.
Because when something's on Mars, you can't really just go and repair it.
Reboot it.
really has to work. It really has to be reliable and
Oh,
work.
it has to have a
and,
hard reset.
and oftentimes free stuff is not that,
Right.
as we've experienced with our live stream.
Yeah, just today. That wasn't really FFmpeg's fault, to be fair.
Not really.
That
I'm going
was-
to blame it on your internet.
Yeah, my internet is miserable out here.
So it's not the software thing that I built.
Your software thing does show everyone's key every time I share the wrong screen, though.
Yeah, that's fair. Actually, I guess I could change that, but
I want to put in a beta bug complaint.
yeah.
Speaking of bug complaints,
If you're complaining about bugs on the Starship launch platform, they might be getting what's the word?
Toasty.
Burnt. Yeah.
So what is this? I never even heard of Starship SN10.
I
You're so
don't
close in
remember
on
what
your
the
camera.
SN stands for. It might be Starship number, like Starship number 10. But
Okay.
they've had 9 others before this. So we talked about 8, which was the one that went up and then did the kind of belly flop.
Oh,
re-entered
okay.
and almost landed and then exploded. Number 9 was less close to landing than number 8 was. And so number 10 is just the next step here. And it was planned to launch a while ago, but then due to some weather that came across, I guess, Texas, in case you haven't heard, they've been having some cold weather down there.
Some weather.
Yep. So the Starship thing was put on hold. And so now they're waiting for a clean weather window to launch it. And I'm honestly not sure what it is exactly that they're trying to test. I know with Starship 8, they were specifically trying to test that whole belly flop landing
Yeah.
type thing.
So out of curiosity, I don't know if you know this, is there a reason they're not trying this with simply smaller rockets, like things that a human could carry, to see if it's like, hey, this is clearly not going to work, versus like eventually at some point in civilization you probably make this work because you can draw it, but
Yeah.
to see like, oh, if we shape the rocket like this helps with like diverting the air to push the rocket in this way, or something of that sort.
I mean, they've surely done testing in wind tunnels with smaller models and that kind of thing. Because that's, I think, probably one of the first steps that they do is testing on a super small scale, talking like, 6 inches or a foot
Right.
size.
Like, I would think so, but why wouldn't they show those proof of concepts? Because when you see
I
10 failed
don't
rockets, you're like,
I
oh,
think
God.
they're as interesting for people to look at, I guess. But, and I'm not involved in the aerospace
Right.
industry,
No
so
kidding. Yeah.
I haven't seen these tests or anything. But you just got to assume that they test on like a super small scale like that, because there's basically no consequences. They can test as much as they want. What's the price for a 3D
Yeah.
printed rocket like that or whatever? And
Yeah, and you're basically
running
just paying
water
for
over it,
scientific
checking
time.
yeah. But I think specifically the big thing that they're testing with these rockets is at a larger scale, is it something that's viable? So I don't know if I guess they don't see enough value in testing in something that's, say, 10 feet or 20 feet tall, as opposed to the full scale.
Blown, right? Yeah, it just seems
which
like,
obviously the full scale is way more expensive. But
yeah. Because I could understand that, something at a foot tall would fly some different than something at 200 foot tall.
yeah,
But how much different is something 100 foot tall versus 200 foot? Like, at a certain point, I think the outside, oh man, what did we call this? Outside
like dimensions or
Yeah, no.
oh, environment variables.
Yeah, and outside variables affect it once you get to a certain size.
Yeah. But I guess at that point, if you're making it 100 feet tall, why not make it full size? I don't know.
Yeah, it's not your money, right?
Yeah, right. I mean, it is their money, though. SpaceX's money. Or, well, I guess they're not really profitable yet, but who knows?
Maybe one day.
Someone's paying for it.
Man, we flew through that and we still didn't talk about all our topics.
I don't know about flew through that.
We're not talking about Spotify again, I can tell you that.
Or lists from CNET, which ironically enough is one of the topics that we're carrying over to next week, is a list from CNET.
Ooh, and I'm not going to look
But
at
it's
it all
not
week.
as long. Yeah.
Awesome.
So we'll leave you guys on the cliffhanger. Join us next week as we tech about, well, topics and also a list from CNET.
Oh, we're going to talk about all the topics.
Possibly a Starship 10 launch.
Or
they do launch.
crash.
Or both.
Yeah, launch a crash. Let's
Yep.
hope not. Awesome.
Well,